Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Collectibles Catchup. I'm Tyler, and we are a few weeks away from our convention that we co-host with Nerf Herder Comics, which is going to be Nerd Fest. That's on October 11th from 10 a.m. to 4 at Sullivan Middle School. And so, leading up to the convention, we'll be having a bunch of guests on our show, writers, vendors, artists, all sorts of folks. And today, I'm hyped for us to have Ricky Gilby of Bruce Leroy's Dojo. So, Ricky, thanks for coming on.
Yep, appreciate the invite.
So I thought we'd just start off like really kind of rewinding a bit. How did you first get into collecting comic books?
So I grew up Catholic, and if
Same.
anybody that knows that you grow up Catholic, you got to stay in church. So we relocated from Chicago, where we had WGN. So the closest thing got me into comics was I think I was like 5 or 6 years old, and WGN had Batman, the
Oh,
movie
nice.
with Adam West, and the scene that got me was the shark repellent scene. So I'm sitting there at like 5 or 6 years old, and I'm like, "Mom, it's Batman," and he's getting bit by a shark, and he pulls out the spray, and I was just like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And I kind of looked at my Spider-Man toy, and I was like, "Spider-Man's not as cool because he didn't fight off a shark with shark repellent." So fast forward, we moved, and our church, conveniently that we went to, the only Catholic Hispanic church in 1988, was right next to Sheldon Drum's Heroes,
Oh, wow.
and that was on. I forgot the street in Charlotte, but it was on Central, and
Hmm.
I could but when we would pull into the church, I could see the backside of his store, and he had like Spider-Man on the glass and all this other stuff. And so, we'd be in church for hours. So I would make an excuse to go to the bathroom, and then I would sneak out. And then
Nice.
I would walk in to Sheldon's store, and I'd look around. I didn't have any money. I'm just a little kid going in. And one day my mom caught on to me, and then after she whooped me, and like on the fifth time, she had promised me that if I sat in church, that she would take me and I would buy a comic. And so the first comics that I purchased was Iron Man 55, which has no value. It was, it had Camistro on the cover, and he's like, Iron Man had like turned to stone. So I was like so excited. And then right around that time, Venom had just came out.
Oh,
So the first issue I saw, as I was thumbing through, was like 300, and it just kind of took me back because I was just like, Spider Man's not supposed to have on a black suit,
hmm.
right? I already knew, and so those were the first two comics that I purchased,
Nice.
and so I remember going through and like reading them, and I was like, who is this Venom, and why is he so evil and scary?
Hmm.
And kind of destroyed my world. Right, I'm like an
Yeah.
8-year-old kid, and I'm just kind of like, oh man, like this hurts my feelings. And then every week she would, I would stay in church, and then she would take me, and I'd get like two or three comics, and I kind of stuck with it until I was about 16, and then I started getting into sports, and then it just became not cool to tell kids in school that you collected comics or you hung them up on your wall.
It's
So
not
I
like
just
today where it's very, very cool now, you know.
yeah. So I mean, I played basketball, and so I was just kind of like, all right. So the guys are like, "What do you do?" I was like, everybody's playing Nintendo. I'm reading comics." So
I have I have this comic over here that's I know you're not technically supposed to frame them, but like this is kind of cool. This is a to the Catholic Connection. When I worked for Nickel Spot, this is a comic that Nick gave me that we found. He's like, "Oh, you can just have this one." So I was like, "Oh, I
oh, that's
didn't know
pretty
that the
sweet.
Pope had a comic." So
Yeah. There was was it one of my first cons here in Charlotte? I was buying, and right before I set up for the first time, we went to, I forgot whose booth, but my buddy, my partner in crime, he's not here. Thomas Basile. You'll always see him at our booth. He's got the beard. We look like brothers, but we're not. But he loves war stuff, and so he grabbed Hansy,
oh
the girl that loved Nazis, and he was like, "Hey, can you clean and press this?" And I was like, "No." And I forgot what dealer was. And he's like, "If you feel bad, I'll throw in the Life of Jesus Christ, the Marvel version, which I'd never seen." And he was like, "Look, you can feel bad, and then now you can redeem yourself afterwards." So, so he was
That's
like,
funny.
and he threw it in as a package deal. So my buddy Thomas got handsy, and I picked up the Life of
That's fun.
Jesus, on comic. So it's somewhere in the house somewhere, but I have to
That's
find it.
great.
But yeah.
Now you mentioned Batman and Spider-Man. Would they still be like, are they still among your top heroes or?
No, Venom is always, and the Todd McFarlane. But I am a Transformers guy through and through. So I that's like for the longest time, that's all I collected. Every Transformer issue you can think of, I have. I'm trying to work on a graded set of the Marvel original run that are the 80 series.
Hmm.
So I'm 6 issues away from completing it. And I think I have 49 9.8s.
Wow.
And then if I have a 9.6, it's either signed by the voice actor or by Frank Welker, voice of Megatron, or Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime. So that's my go-to. I never, every once in a while, I break them out into the shows and the cons, um, but only if I'm feeling generous. I'll bring doubles, but I usually keep like those are the stuff that I won't sell. Everything else, my Venoms and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, it's Transformers. Love it. 80 stuff. So GI Joe. Um, and then Wayne from Smashers Comics can tell you that the other thing I'd love is like off the wall stuff.
Hmm.
Like
Just kind of like out there, kind of unique things.
yeah, just stuff you won't find. Like he knows if he gets a book, he'll text me and he'll be like, and Brandy, his wife, to be like, Ricky will buy it, like like a signed Gumby or just off the wall stuff that you can't just find. You don't see every day,
Mhm.
good stuff, but just just weird stuff that I'm like, all right, this is cool.
Yeah, yeah. I've definitely had customers like that too. Like, what's your most out there thing? So, um, I do want to ask, and I kind of had this plan to ask a little bit later, but you kind of brought up slabs. So I know like on your eBay store, you have a lot of slabs. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes like people who aren't in comics might see that and be like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you
Mhm.
taking this thing that you're supposed to read and why are you putting in this thing so you can, in theory, never read it again? So I
Mhm.
guess for someone like if someone watched this video and had never heard about slabs or anything like that, like what is the purpose of slabbing? Like, what's the appeal of it?
I think first and foremost for me, it's like there's just some books you want to preserve, right? We get
Mm,
some cool stuff, and it's just like, hey, how can you preserve it? How can you prevent it from degrading any further,
mm.
right? And so initially, I that's what I started out slabbing. So I do more. I at one point I had more slabs than I had raw books.
Oh wow.
So I think I had close to like 500 slabs, and that's what I did. I just I would clean and press them and then get them sold on eBay, so that I could buy better ones. But
Mhm,
at the end of the day, it's and I think people go back and forth. They say, well, it's a certified grade, and grading is subjective.
mhm.
So I think what got me into grading was and getting a graded book was, we've all been there where someone tells you, hey, this is a 5.0 or this is a 6.5. So you're like, oh, you're all excited. And you go and you submit it and then it comes back like a 4.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're just like, so I think I had those experiences. And what I wanted to do more so was at the beginning was just to preserve my stuff, like
Mm,
preserve my key issues. Your first Spider, your first Venom, first Transformers. So I kind of started off with that route is that, what are the books that you want to preserve and keep in the long run?
mhm.
And that's how I started. And then I started seeing, okay, well, it kind of got to me as like, wait, so if I put this in this piece of plastic, it's going to triple the value, right? And that's what everybody thinks. Like,
Right. Yeah.
you've got a what is it, you've got a bloodshot number one and you get it graded and it's a 9.8, and all of a sudden someone's gonna be like, oh my god, that's a $50,000 comic. It's not, right?
Yeah.
So because people think it's graded, but that's how I got into it. And so I think for those folks that don't know is if I think it's more of preservation. and right, and we're dealers, and like we at some point you do have to make money, right? And
Mhm.
so, but I think the premise, and I think it's gotten a little bit out of hand. But the whole point of grading is so that you have a certified, hey, this is a 6.5, and you can equate a value to it,
Right. Yeah, because
right?
oh, go ahead. Well,
Go
like
ahead.
you said, it's subjective. If I've got a raw book, and I have, oh, okay, I say it's this, it's a 6.0 or whatever. You look at it, you might say it's a 6.5 or it's a 7 or so it's good to have that objective, kind of seal of approval.
Yeah, so I got burned a couple times, and so that just led me down the rope of let me go through and read, the Overstreet guide,
Hmm.
what's grading, and let me go through and I've read the CGC grading guidelines, um, so that I could just be better informed, right? So that I
Yeah.
know that, man, I mean, there comes a time where, when I was younger or even there, it's like, hey, I got $200 in my pocket. I'm going to the show, and that's the average person, right? I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
$200 in my pocket, and I want a near mint copy or a very fine copy of, you know, um, Amazing Spider-Man 298, right? And you should be able to get something like that, right? It's an affordable copy, but I want a really nice copy. So how can I tell, hey, if someone's charging me 150 for this book, but it's really a $50 book, right? And so let me
Mhm.
look at it and everything else. And that's how I got into grading. That's how I got into cleaning and pressing, and going through that is like, I've got $200 in my pocket. Let me maximize it. Let me see what I can get and make sure that, hey, I'm getting the value that I'm putting in, you know.
Right.
Um, and so that's what led me down that path of having the graded comics. And at the end of the day, it's collect what you want, right? But for me, it's if I'm grading something, it's either hot right now, right? And I'm trying to get something more of value, or I
Yeah.
just want to preserve it, or
Mhm.
I want it to look nice in a case.
Yeah, exactly. And some people, depending on the collector, like I'm sure you've had customers like this at your booth where they're really specific about like, I'm looking for X book, but like it's got to be a real crisp book. I've had people, they found the issue they want, but they really spend their time looking at it and like really flipping it, look over, and they're like, you know what? No. And I'm like, oh, okay. So some people are very particular about the books. I think that's a good skill to have, like depending on what you want. If you just want a reader copy, obviously just, if
Yeah.
you find it, but if you want a real nice copy, you got to know what are those things you're looking for, the spine, the coloring, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, whatever fits your budget is, and just collect what you like, and I never get offended if someone says, hey, this is not up to my standard. Then great, that's fine.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time, and my take is I'll talk to everybody who comes in the booth, whether you buy something or not. I don't care.
Hmm.
We're just there to have fun,
Right.
and this is it's it's I do this on the side. It's a side hustle. I respect everybody that does this 24 hours a day, because it's tough.
Yeah.
There's some really, really good guys out there. James for Comics for Cheap, like I said, Sam with Hey Kids, Derek with Nerf Herder, like, they bring the A game.
Hmm.
And so, it's one of those things where collect what you like. And all those guys I really had good experiences with. Chris Rigo, a few others, Colton for Sailfish, Colton Sykes, who runs the Sailfish Comics in Concord. One of my closest friends, and he's fantastic. And so, at the end of the day, just collect what you like, and try to maximize it, and just inform yourself, because like any sport and hobby, there's bad people everywhere, but
Yeah.
for the most part, a lot of the dealers on this show and all the other shows are fantastic people.
Yeah.
you know
I remember kind of a sign I had that I was like, oh, I'm in a good industry. Like there's good people here. Is when I worked for Nickel Spot Comics, years ago, we had a lady come in and she was like, oh, I have no idea what I've got. She had a box of comics. She's like, these are my uncles or what have you. And I'm trying to sell them. And she's like, I just want like $500 for it or what have you. And, our manager, Nick, looked at it and he was like, well, I can't give you 500 for this because this is like, it's got the first appearance of Thor in it. And so he gave her more. And I just feel like most people I've encountered here, different dealers are all very honest and they're gonna give you the best deal possible, even if that means them paying more than they probably would have, obviously, she wanted 500, but it's like I can't in good conscience only give you 500 for this, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and that's like I said, a lot of, and this is my second time at setting up at Nerdfest, and it's fantastic, and it was fun. You know,
Hmm.
there's deals to be had. There's just really honest people in the room, and that's what's kind of great about this whole hobby. And like I said, there's always going to be bad people in the industry, in any industry you go to, but this is one where there's more, there's better people and good people, and there's a lot more than there is bad people.
Yeah.
So you might have an off day. I don't think I've ever yelled at a customer or anything like that, and I won't. Are there some that are there folks that are aggravating? Of course.
It's like
um,
anything.
yeah, but I tell them all the time is I don't run a museum. I'm trying to
Hmm.
sell some comics. You can make me an offer. I'm not going to get pissed off. There's some people that get angry because if I have a $500 book and you're like, I'll give you $150 for it, and I'll be like, all right, just let me know if you find it somewhere else for 150.
Right. Yeah.
Then I'll go with you, and you can have
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we believe in just making people happy, and so we give away free comics to kids all the time. Like if you have a child and you bring it, I usually ask them what their favorite character is, and I'll just dig in our dollar bin or whatever and just give it to them.
Yeah.
And just it's like, hey, as long as you promise to read it, like promise to read
Yeah.
it and carry on this, because that's how I got started.
Yeah.
And even as adults, we love it. So just carry it forward is what I ask. So
That's awesome. We try to do similar things. If I ever see a kid and like they're buying some books and they're like, oh, I'm a couple of dollars short. I've never been like, well, sorry, capitalism. It's
yeah, yeah. Now this
I'm
is
always
just for
gonna.
kids. You got to put that caveat there. Now your mom and
Oh
dad
yeah,
that
I
have a
know.
real job, I'm not giving them anything for free.
No, even
It's
even if you
just the
got the
kids,
biggest
just the
puppy dog
kids.
eyes and like, oh man, I
Yeah,
wish
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry, you're not a kid.
yeah. You're a grown man. Listen, I'm not giving you this $50 book for free. You're not getting it for free.
Exactly. Um, so you started, I did my research. I was trying to do my research before we do these. So you started on eBay first, and then you moved into doing Comic Cons in 2023.
Mhm.
What do you feel like is like I guess, biggest thing you've learned since like shifting from being a seller to now like doing shows and running the eBay store and all that?
So I started on eBay like when eBay first started.
Oh wow,
Um,
so good bit to go.
so I've been on eBay. Yeah, well, right around. I think I've been selling comic books on eBay since 2000 and um, I want to say about 5 or 6. So when the internet was just kind of brand new, so there was a friend of mine, Tim, who owned Ballistic Comics in Concord, and I used to sell like some of the stuff. He had a book we'd listed on eBay, and this was years ago, and that's how I kind of got started. And I think the biggest difference is like understanding that I'm trying to sell books and not just be like going in and spending still more than what I sell,
Yeah.
and making that shift of a collector. So Thomas, who is my partner in crime, he kind of got me on Charlotte Comic Con, which is a big Comic Con for us.
Yeah, no, it's
That
it's
was my
big.
first one. And he walked into my house and he's like, "You have a crap ton of comics."
Mm.
And he's like, and I knew Wayne for a while too. And a matter of fact, I had a divorce and I sold Wayne the rest of my collection. So I restarted back in like
Mhm.
2014. So I completely sold out of everything. And the biggest difference is, I think, seeing the behind the scenes and like how hard people work,
Yeah.
right? I think you take it for granted. You go to a show and you see people set up,
Mhm. Yeah, you're just
and
it's already there.
you don't realize that these dealers are there at 5 o'clock in the morning
Mhm.
and they're setting up, and they're putting their books out and going through and rebagging and boarding stuff. People don't understand how long it takes,
Yeah.
like to go in through or to go thumb through the pages, and the time and effort, right? To make sure that you have fresh inventory for people. Like
Mhm.
it's a skill. It people work hard,
Yeah.
And in this area, there's a lot of really good people. And so trying to find those collections, and you answer, you get calls and someone says, "Hey, I want to sell you this," and you get there and it's a bunch of the image books that were just over mass produced, a bunch
Yeah.
of Supreme number ones, you know, all this stuff that you can't give away.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just the amount of work and effort it takes to really put out a product. Like, I have a lot of respect for my peers and other vendors and what they go through to get it set up, and
Yeah.
to consistently like set up at a show that's on one end of the state, and then on a Saturday, and then they're driving a whole nother 5 hours to go to another show at another
Right.
state,
Yeah.
and um, lots of respect for the guys that do this full time,
Hmm.
because it is a lot of work, and it is honest and hard work.
Well, you
People
mentioned
think it's easy.
Chris Rio, and I'm just going to pick on him because I've talked to him a good bit, and I'm sure there's other vendors that have similar schedules. But there's been times where he's mentioned that, like, so many weekends out of the year he's doing shows. Like it's very rare for him to have a weekend off, and that's just
It's
impressive.
insane. It's
It's
insane.
craziness.
Yeah, him and love him and Sarah to death. Um, they work their asses off.
Mhm.
And yeah, and like I said, that's what I respect the most. That's what I
Yeah.
learned a lot is, what you see is the finished product.
Hmm.
Um, and Derek the same way, Nerf Herder, Tim, and that's the funny thing is, like, we all have real lives too,
Yeah.
and I think people forget that uh, a lot of us also have other, full time jobs, and they do this, and um, families as well. And so it's like anything else, it's travel, and this is what they do for a living. And people think it's easy. So I've always at work, sometimes some people are like, "Oh, you sell comic books? Okay, well, what do you do? Set up at a flea market?" Yeah, maybe
It's
sometimes,
legit.
but um, they don't understand the cost involved with, hey, I have to haul this, get a trailer or haul your inventory somewhere, and then you got to set it up, so you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. The amount of time it takes to price stuff
Oh
is the
yeah.
most tedious, ridiculous thing ever.
And you got to
um,
keep up to date with the prices. You can't just let them sit there, you know?
yeah, yeah. So at some point, sometimes I get tired, and they're like, "There's no price on it." I was like, "What do you want to pay?"
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I'm done. Just maybe a decent offer,
Yeah.
and there you go. But it is, and like I said, just a lot of respect for a lot of these guys. James for Comics for Cheap does it. He does a really good job. Like I said, Wayne with Smashers, and Andy, with Bonafide Comics, and Sam. Those guys work their asses off too, and you see it, and people love them. And
Yeah.
as dealers too, those are the relationships that I've built. There's some really other, Earl Shaw as well. But those are kind of like the relationships that I've built, where I just have a lot of respect for these guys.
Yeah. And really, and just before we move on for this, I want to talk also about just like how there's none of this, like, we're technically, I guess, competitors, and like we're all, I guess, trying to make money, but it never feels that way. Like, no, people would always stop and help you. You know, if someone sees like, oh, you're struggling or you need something, someone's going to stop and help you out. Like, I've done solo shows where, like, Tim's somewhere else and I'm at another show, and Chris is there and he's like, "Oh, let me help you do your wall or whatever." And people are just always so nice. So even though, yeah, we're technically, each of us trying to make as much money as we can, it never feels that way, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and as a matter of fact, you said like Chris helped you, Wayne. My first show at Charlotte Comic Con, right? It's different when you're a vendor versus a buyer.
Yeah.
And so, he came by. He's like, "Hey," he came by after I had set up my booth, and I was like, "So, what do you think?" And then he just, he's been doing this for such a long time, and he's so established. He was like, "Take that down, move this here, over there," and he's like a mini manager, and he's like, "I put this one here. I put this. This is hot. Take this." Oh, and he started going through my stuff. He's like, "Oh, put that one up. Take that one down," and I was like, "Oh, okay," and that's that experience, that's that knowledge that comes with these guys that have been doing it for a while. So it's
Mhm.
different to go from a customer to a vendor,
Yeah.
a business owner, right? And then look at those folks that are successful, and I think the biggest thing is no one cares how much you know, um, that you got, Amazing Spider-Man number one on your wall, or you got all these expensive books or anything, unless you show them that you care. And then
Yeah.
once you show them that you care, like that's to me, that's how you learn. And
Yeah.
these guys, like he dropped knowledge, he still does to this day. I'll call him up, and I'm more familiar with modern books, so he'll call me up and be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" I was like, "Oh, that's not hot." But on some of the older stuff, when we're digging through the trenches, he'll be like, "Hey, put that back. Grab this. You
Hmm.
missed out on this." And that's the thing that I think a lot of folks. That's what I picked up the most from these guys is like their knowledge and
Yeah, absolutely.
picking out stuff, and they're like walking encyclopedias. And the fact that they share it, like you said, and everybody wants to help, or if and matter of fact, one of the biggest buys I got from Chris. Someone
Mm.
was selling some books, and he's like, Ricky's a modern guy, and he knows, and he sent them my
Yeah.
way. And Thomas, my buddy, is sitting there going through stuff, and the guys, he's going back and forth with the guy. I'm handling a customer. He's like, I need $400. It's like, I was like, what for? He's like, just give it to me. And I was like, no. And he's like, just give me $400. And I was like, fine. So he takes it and he comes back, and he had like, he got like $2,000 worth of books, and he wasn't trying to rip anybody off. It was just, the guy was just like, this is what I want for him. And he
Yeah,
told him, he's
exactly.
like, I
Yeah.
don't care. It's just, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, that's the people help all the time. So if I don't have a book and I've seen it at somebody else's booth, I'll send them over there. I'm like, hey, go over
Yeah,
here, you know,
exactly.
um, because at the end of the day, it's like they're there to be happy and to get their book. And so why would you not send them to somebody else that's got it? Like that's their
And they might
one
remember
mission.
that too, maybe
Yeah.
one day they remember, like, you gave me good advice. You know, not that you have to have that motive, but I think it's just the general right thing to do, point someone in the right direction.
Yeah. And it actually worked out for us at the Matthews Comic Con. We did that for someone, and then they bought like an $8 book, and then the mom came back and dropped like $250. She's like, it's my son's birthday, and like I said, we do a lot of '80s stuff and just the stuff we grew up on. And my partner in crime is a big Simpsons guy, and he had a signed one, and they
Oh,
came by
cool.
and bought it, and I was just like, look, you pay it forward.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
we sent them somewhere, and they were like, you guys were so nice, and they come back and they drop that, and that just kind of made his day. So I was like, yeah, this is why, good karma, good energy comes forward. So
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely believe that. Now I was eBay stalking you a little bit,
mhm.
looking through the eBay page, and I saw you had, you mentioned a lot of modern stuff, and I saw some modern variants and also some virgin variants. So are you kind of big into like the variant world as well?
I am a cover guy. Like I
Okay,
love,
yeah.
and I've been lazy. My wife and I moved. We moved. I used to live in Davidson. We sold my house. We moved into her house. Now we sold hers. So the last couple of months, we relocated to a new location, and so it's just like took my comic collection elsewhere. But I love covers. Like I am a cover guy. I love the original artwork.
Hmm.
Um, so I just picked up a Fantastic Four run. That was first Doctor Doom, first
Oh, sweet.
Submariner in the Silver Age. Like it was issues 4 to like 120, and it had all the keys in it. First Black Panther, first
Oh,
Galactus, all that stuff.
that's solid.
And I look at that art and I love it. You know,
Hmm.
um, And matter of fact, I was chit chatting with Wayne about it from Smashers Comics, and he's like, "Open up, and you'll see the first ads." And it's like so cool to see the first meeting of the Hulk and the Thing, but then in there is, coming next month is, the best superhero of all time, and it's got like an ad for X-Men 1.
Wow.
So I love interior art, but I love covers more. And so for me, I'm a big Michael Turner fan,
Oh
and
yeah,
he
yeah.
passed so young and early. But his artwork for Tomb Raider and like early GI Joe and his Fathom artwork, like I love a good cover. So that brings us to this modern day craze on the orbits and the fame books
Yeah.
that people tend to hate, I will buy them simply for the cover. I know
Mhm.
the interior artwork isn't the greatest, but yeah, I love variants. Um, I think they're getting it now. They're kind of getting a little bit over mass produced, but
Yeah.
but I'm a sucker for a fantastic cover, and there's some really good cover guys now, like Gabrielle Delato, Clayton Crane.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, I wish they did more interior work, but because of their style, it would take them forever to draw
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I love the variants and stuff, and I kind of got hooked on it. And but it's a little out of control now, where you got like 27 variants for the first issue.
Yeah. Or especially if they've got these anniversary issues, so forget about it. You're gonna have an absurd amount of variants, but
Yeah.
sometimes
So
they're really good. Yeah.
I try to find the hard to find variants. So if you
Yeah.
looked on, like the M&M variants, I've had a bunch of those. I get those, I get them cleaned and pressed and I grade them and then they're out the door. So I can't
Oh,
ever
yeah.
hold on to it, but I do love like the variants that are hard to chase.
Yeah.
So,
Have you are you into do you like art germ at all? Have you?
yeah, I got a ton of art germ stuff. He's great for me. It's kind of like I love his style. He's similar to Gabrielle Delato
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
ways. And their lines are clean, their colors, and just the way they do stuff. But favorite cover artist of all time has to be Michael Turner for me.
Do you have a good amount of his stuff then currently?
Yeah,
Kind of as your
so
collection?
I normally I've got a bunch of Turner guys that always follow me, so I always have the hard to find Michael Turner variants because most of the time I hoard them. So I'm a doubles person. So if I can, I usually have doubles of every issue that I own. So
Nice.
if you see it in my booth, I probably have a double, and you know, um, I always buy doubles or get my hands on them, and it's usually one to grade, one to keep,
Yeah.
right? But for me, it's Michael Turner. I'll carry a bunch of Clayton Crane. I love Clayton Crane stuff. Alex Ross, great cover artist. And then John Romita Jr.
Yeah.
And some of the old. I look at some of the older artists. Sam De La Rosa with his Venom. And then I'm a huge Todd McFarlane guy. So the Todd Father. If I
Yeah.
can find anything from the Todd Father, I grab it.
I would say there's if there's an area of growth I need to work on is like I need to get better on like knowing artists because I have times where you have buyers who are like specifically interested in a specific artist and they'll say, "Do you have any whoever?" And I struggle with that, knowing okay who did what to keep track of everybody. I was impressed with Don from RVK Comics, and he had a good amount. Like his stuff was sorted really well into like
Mhm.
this artist did this, and he knew off the top of his head, oh, this particular artist did a one issue of this book, so that's why this is technically a key. And I was like, oh, that's pretty. It's
Yeah,
again that
I'm the
encyclopedia
same way.
knowledge.
Like I break it down. I have a Michael Turner box. I've got an Alex Ross box. I've got a Clayton Crane box. Gabrielle Delato box. Depending on the show, you want to rotate your inventory so you give people fresh stuff. Um, but right now, like what I'm collecting is Sveta Subina. So she is I think she's a European artist, and her lines, she's drawing what is it? Pinapocalypse. So she does a
Okay,
lot of covers for Pinapocalypse, and then some beautiful artwork. So she's hot right now. I got a ton of her stuff because I like that 60s style that she'll do and things like that. But yeah, I do my best to know who does what.
mhm.
Like Art Germ is, he's always fantastic.
Yeah,
Um, John Jiang is good. Um, Peach Momoko, I love her stuff. I'm hit or miss with her on some things, but then there's some things that she does that's freaking amazing.
yeah,
But there's just so many good artists now. Lucio Perillo and his wife Carla Cohen
mhm.
that just do some different, and that they have some renditions on certain characters that are just phenomenal.
There's what is it, Lee? Another one, Lee Enuick. Is that how you pronounce it? Aren't they really
Yeah,
big into?
Inuit Lee, he does his
Yeah, yeah.
he's
There, I got the names mixed up. Yeah, they do a
Inuit
lot
Lee
of
or
like
whatever.
a
Yeah,
lot of.
it's hard to say, but he's in that art germ. There's a couple of them that are in that style.
They do a lot of like
David
the
Nakayama also has a good.
superhero female superheroes and all that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, um, I have two daughters, so I some of it's good, some of it gets a little racy, so I try not to carry
yeah,
that stuff. But it's there's just some characters that people draw that are freaking fantastic. And then Daniel Warren Johnson, he's also on my list because he's a writer of Transformers, but he gives it that kind of anime manga style that just works for the book. And
right.
it's like a rough lines, but it just it's freaking fantastic, and his writing is really good as well too.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned having. How old are your daughters? Are they how young are
24, and then 17 going on 35 because you can't
nice.
tell the
I
17-year-old
teach.
anything.
The only reason I ask is I teach high school, and so I've got seniors. So I've got 17, 18-year-olds, and they're all born in 2005, 2006, which is when you started doing eBay. Not to date you, but it's interesting thinking like, what are the things that I know that they don't know? Um, and so you're a big 90s fan. If there was anything like either a show or a movie that you could like make sure that this generation knew about, current, teenagers, oh, you should definitely watch this. What's your recommendation?
So it's where I got my name from, which is The Last Dragon with Bruce Leroy and Sho'nuff.
Hmm.
Cult classic. You can't get enough of it. That's where I got my name from. I watched it growing up in Chicago. Small Hispanic kid, right? I saw it and I was like, Dad, I got to do karate after that because it's Bruce Leroy.
Yeah.
And so I thought I was going to be the Spanish version, Julio Leroy, but that didn't work out. And so that's where I got my name. Like that movie to me is always just a cult classic.
Yeah.
And Shonuff is one of the he's passed and he's deceased now. But he is like one of the greatest like movie villains of all time, that you can get on there. And that you have to watch just for and there's a lot of characters in there that have passed. Vanity, who was in Prince's new in the Power Generation, she has passed. Shonuff has passed. His brother in there has passed, and but Timok, who is Bruce Leroy, I got to meet at MegaCon
Oh,
a
that's
few years
awesome.
back, and just had a chat with him, and he signed some stuff for me. And you can't forget the glow. Like it's the glow, and who's the master Shonuff, right? It just goes. I mean, it's one of those cult
It's
classics that you
iconic.
got to watch. Yeah,
Right,
iconic.
exactly. That's great. And I just know there's so many, different shows and movies, and not to say that stuff isn't good now, because there's plenty of good stuff coming out, but I just feel like there's a lot of really timeless stuff from the 80s and 90s. And my sister was born in 91 and I was born in 96, so I kind of through her got some of the earlier 90s stuff. So I've never really considered myself, I guess I'm like Gen Z millennial bordering,
Mm.
but I've always kind of skewed a little more toward millennial just because of my older
Geez,
sister.
I graduated in '95, so you're dating me. That's old.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll move on. We had a fun we had a funny moment. We've always joked with Tim and I that like he calls me the boy. And I was at a show and it was just me, and they were like, and some guy came up to me, he's like, "So where's your dad?" And I was like, and he was serious. I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh well, dad's at home right now." But so that was
Yeah,
funny.
I'm grown. I'm grown. What can I help you with? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the kids today, it's really good because it's funny because they love the artwork, but they're in the manga, and
Mhm.
just it's interesting in what they like,
Yeah.
So Dragon Ball Z, a lot of the stuff that I like too. So it's not like I haven't seen it, but um, yeah, I love it, and I love meeting the young kids that know their stuff too.
Yeah.
Um, Terry, uh, if you've known Terry that comes by that has
Oh
his
yeah,
own
yeah, yeah.
comic.
Terry's great. Yeah,
Terry is fantastic. He's, I think you guys are probably around the same age, but Terry
I gotta
knows
get him
his
on
stuff.
here because I've talked to him about it. He's just been so busy.
Yeah, he is phenomenal. I love that kid to death, and he just knows his stuff, man.
Hmm.
He knows it, and super impressive. So
Well, really enjoyed a lot of what you said today. And before I have you leave, I got probably the hardest hitting question for you. So Nerdfest is around, it's October 11th, 20 days before Halloween. What is your go-to Halloween candy? Like if this was left behind in the bowl, you'd
mm,
probably eat the whole thing, you know, drain the bowl. What's the go-to candy?
I have to say Reese cups.
Yeah.
Like you can't go wrong with Reese cups.
Yeah. Those are good. I'm more of a
Yeah,
Kit Kat
I
guy.
don't need any. I don't need any more. I don't need any more. So, but those are fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Tim gives out comic books on Halloween.
Um, yeah, I don't want to eat the comic book. If you have some Reese cups, I'll come by y'all's booth and stalk you.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah, so I totally forgot it is going to be during Halloween. Yeah, we'll figure out some stuff. We'll bring some candy or something, but
Yeah.
as long as we don't eat it. But we're on a diet, so we'll be those guys that hand out like vegetables or something.
Yeah. I at one point, so a few years ago, I teach for my main job, but then I also decided to DoorDash, which kind of tells you how much teachers make. But I was
I
DoorDashing.
listen. I respect you guys. You guys are. It is tough. It is tough.
Yeah,
I think you guys should always get paid more. Um,
me
you guys
too.
are in charge of the future generation, and you have to take responsibility for that. And so, a lot of respect. Um, I'm an education guy too, so I understand it. I was the first one in my family to graduate from college.
Mhm.
So, it is what you guys do doesn't go unnoticed. I think you guys are so underpaid, but
Thank you. I appreciate it. I always try to I've got comic book stuff on my walls. I'm also a big music fan. I've got Beatles and Bob Dylan stuff everywhere. Um, but I was door dashing around that time, and I was also trying to do really strict keto, like low carb, but cutting out fried foods and all that. And I'd have to deliver Chick-fil-A, Burger King, McDonald's, and it's just sitting there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like French fries are wafting through my car.
mm,
It's
Chick Fil A is the Lord's chicken. You can't go wrong with the Lord's chicken.
no, you cannot, can never go wrong with that. Um, well, we're super hyped to have you at NerdFest for the second one. We're really appreciative of you coming back. And again, that's going to be on the 11th from 10 a.m. to 4 at Sullivan Middle School. So, Ricky, we're super hyped to have you back joining us for NerdFest.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back, and it's a fantastic show, and it was so successful the last time. And I appreciate you guys bringing that con to an area where they don't get too much
Mhm.
of that exposure. But we had a fantastic time, so I'm glad to do it again, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah, we're hoping it's just as good, if not better, than last time. So,
Yeah.
thanks again for coming on, Ricky. And I guess we'll see you in a few weeks at the show.
Yep. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yep. Take care.
Yay, comics!